Welcome to This Explainer. Today, you and I have a really fascinating mission. We're taking a calm, reflective deep dive into Tommy Yoshida's 10-year observation record of Japan's My Number system, the country's unified digital national ID. Now, we're not doing a standard tech review or a dry policy breakdown today. Instead, let's just sit together, you and I, and explore the deeply human side of this massive digital transition. So let's dive right in. To truly respect our source material, we need to start with the mandatory opening narration exactly as Yoshida framed it. We aren't here to spit out some definitive, AI-generated correct answer. Instead, we are intentionally holding space for incomplete thoughts. We're choosing to embrace the margins, those blank spaces where ideas aren't quite settled yet. And that's exactly where the most interesting insights live. And part of living in those margins is accepting the discomfort of transition. As we go through these observations, you might feel a slight sense of friction or a little disconnect between the language used and the technology itself. That is absolutely okay. We aren't going to edit that out or try to smooth it over. That little bit of awkwardness is exactly what happens when real human lives collide with massive digital systems. Just look at how Yoshida recorded this. He deliberately captured everything. The really profound public anxiety right alongside the sky-high expectations. Notice the imagery of people looking out over a vast cityscape. He didn't parachute in as an architect trying to fix things, or a critic trying to tear them down. He was simply an observer, watching this digital wave wash over the real world. When you look at the timeline, it's wild. The system officially launched in 2015, actual cards rolled out in 2018, the portal went live in 2020, and health insurance cards were integrated by 2021. 10 years is literally nothing for a government system, right? But in tech time, it's an absolute eternity. Our entire relationship with digital society has completely transformed in that exact same window. Let's actually travel back to those early days for a second. People had some very real, very concrete fears. Would the government see my savings? Are my assets suddenly going to become visible? Is this just a trap to collect more taxes? I want us to just pause and sit with that unresolved anxiety. It wasn't just a talking point. It was a heavy, tangible worry that people carried with them. And the questions kept piling up. Would my personal information leak? Is this the start of a total surveillance society? What Yoshida realized is that these fears weren't really about the technical specs of the card itself. It was the fear of the invisible. When you can't see what's happening inside a giant government black box, human nature automatically fills that blank space with worst-case scenarios. And let's be completely real, the rollout wasn't exactly smooth sailing. Early on, adoption was incredibly slow. We saw highly publicized system troubles and misregistration issues hitting the news. But this brings us to a crucial realization. Massive public systems are never actually done at launch. They're living things. All those continuous administrative corrections weren't necessarily failures. They were just the system colliding with reality and actively adjusting. It's a complete paradigm shift, isn't it? At first, people thought, okay, this is just a card for government paperwork. It's just a number. But the reality today? It's evolved into a foundational public authentication layer, with AI and remote services exploding everywhere. Proving that you are literally you online has become absolutely critical. It went from a basic administrative tool to your entire digital interface. And honestly, the sheer scale of it today is mind-blowing. Over 100 million cardholders. If you're just looking at a spreadsheet, you'd say, boom, total success. Everyone's on board. Bureaucratically speaking, hitting over 100 million users is crossing the finish line with flying colors. It looks like a perfectly accepted system. But, and this is a really big but, Yoshida is quick to counter that with a profound thought. Yet numbers do not answer everything. Just because 100 million people have the card in their wallet so they can file taxes or get reward points, that doesn't automatically mean they trust the system. The adoption rate is high, for sure, but adoption does not automatically equal trust. I absolutely love this next point. For anyone who still resists getting the card, Yoshida argues that their hesitation is totally natural. Citizens are not obstacles standing in the way of digital progress. Think of them more like sensors. That human hesitation shows us exactly where government explanation, inclusive design, or just basic human trust simply hasn't arrived yet. So, how do you actually bridge that trust gap? Well, Japan relies heavily on local digital promotion committee members, people exactly like Yoshida. And over the years, that number has skyrocketed from around 20,000 to over 50,000 today. That is a massive grassroots deployment of human capital. But here's the catch. It's not about the number 50,000.
Trust isn't built by handing someone a perfectly worded technical manual. Trust happens when someone sits down next to you, looks you in the eye, and actually listens to your fears about data leaks or surveillance without dismissing you. It's about feeling heard by a real person in your own community.
Because at the end of the day, big, lofty government explanations just don't change minds. What moves the needle are tiny, tangible experiences. It's someone saying, oh, I was actually helped by having it, or that made my paperwork easier. It's that little light bulb moment of, I finally get what this is for. Understanding only overtakes anxiety when the system feels personally useful to you. As Yoshida beautifully summarizes, a system isn't completed in a moment. It continues to evolve as it is used in society. After a decade of watching this unfold, the verdict is beautifully messy. Some of those early fears actually did happen. Some totally vanished. And completely new questions, things we couldn't even imagine back in 2015, have popped up. The system is just breathing and adapting right alongside society. Which brings us to our final thought for today. As digital identities inevitably keep expanding all around the world, how are you and I going to observe them? Are we just going to look at the adoption numbers and efficiency? Or are we going to join Yoshida in the margins, holding space for incomplete thoughts, listening to the hesitation, and embracing the messy reality of transition? Thank you so much for exploring this with me today. Keep observing.